Thank you. So, I'm going to talk about something which is political, in a way. It's about local politics. I'm going to tell you how, in my opinion, city planners are destroying the environment. I don't particularly like city planners, and hopefully by the time I've finished, you won't either. Now, if you ask anybody what is their worst problem with their daily lives, it probably won't be work itself, but it's the journey to work. Now, here, most of you will probably take your cars to work. I think the situation in Santa Barbara is pretty good, in fact. I haven't seen any major traffic jams or anything like that. I also think it's pretty good in Los Angeles, from what I've seen. But I am speaking on comparative basis. For example, I'm thinking of other places. I'm thinking of, for example, I lived in London for 10 years, and I believe myself to be a refugee from London transport. London is great, but the first thing I used to do when I got in the office in the morning was to recover from the journey. But there's places which make London look like paradise, such as, for example, Tokyo or Bangkok, where people can spend 6 hours getting to work. Now, what is the reason why people need to spend all this time in cars? The reason is, in my opinion, is that they are unable to work closer to where they live, or vice versa. Live closer to where they work, whatever. The reason they can't do this is because of the planning situation doesn't allow it. Now, in this town, is a very good example. In many places, the maximum you can build up is about 3 meters 50, something of that nature, whatever that would be feet, I don't know. But I'm doing this by eyesight as a former developer myself. And now, were it possible, for example, to build up higher, you'd be able to enjoy all the benefits of being close to the city centre, the theatre, or whatever you want to do, or come here, for example, on a Tuesday night, or get to work in 10-15 minutes instead of spending so much time in the car. Now, what I'm suggesting, therefore, is that instead of the ridiculous low level of building, which is everywhere, it's absolutely everywhere, it's not just here or in Western Europe or whatever, it's absolutely everywhere. There are regulations which stop people building up. Now, Santa Barbara, for example, is spread across, I don't know, maybe 30, 35 square kilometres, I don't know what it is in miles, or something like that. Again, it's just by looking at it. And, of course, it would be possible to put the entire population in 1 hectare, that's 100 metres by 100. But, of course, you'd have to go up about 1,000 stories or something like that, which is plain, is not possible. But if the entire population could have a sea view and a mountain view just by building 1 block of flats in front of the sea and maybe taking it up 30 stories. Again, maybe that's not a desirable solution, but it is the way which people, I think city planners ought to be thinking. Last year I walked at Oxford Street in London, and there was this very big, must have been about 2-3 hectares, totally vacant property, bang in the centre. And what were they doing? They were allowing 4 stories building. Absolutely incredibly stupid. That, in my opinion, something like that should be going up 30 or 40 floors, because there it would be economically viable. How far can you build actually depends on the construction techniques that you use, and obviously the cost of land. So sometimes it might not be viable to take it up, such as here, perhaps over 8 stories high, but in other places you could certainly go up maybe 30, 40, even 50 stories high. Here there's a problem obviously with earthquakes and the type of construction which is needed, that changes. Now, what are the advantages other than getting people to work quickly? The next thing, which is very close to my heart, is eco issues. The construction, approximately 26% of all heat energy is actually lost through the construction in buildings. It just escapes and all the rest of it. When we think of energy losses, we normally think of industry, we think of cars, but it's architectural is a huge loser of heat. Now, if, however, people are living upwards, the amount of outer surface exposed is reduced. not only that, with modern technique, modern building methods, you have to use less and less energy. For example, my flat in Warsaw, even when the temperature's that's minus centigrade, what's that, 20 degrees? No, 32, it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit. I didn't put the heating on. It had to get really cold for me to put the heating on. So, the next thing I believe in is the use of solar panels. I've seen buildings in Germany where they were entirely heated, cooled, all the other power, everything was from solar. And that's something which is impossible if you're living in that type of houses that you're living in here today, which isn't your fault because there was nothing else to buy. Now, I am not suggesting that people be forced to live in horrible tower blocks, far from it, but I am suggesting that developers are given this option, and not as it is at the moment, where if you wanted to say, build in this street 3 stories high building, a 3-story high building, you wouldn't be allowed to, because the city would say no. We don't want all the riffraff living in Santa Barbara in this building. We want them to live somewhere else and to commute in. And the result of all this commuting is that the environment is getting destroyed more and more. We're encroaching on the greenfield sites, or they become greenfield sites, green sites, destruction of areas such as here, Los Padres Forest and others. So I think it's wrong, and I'm not suggesting force at all, and I'm certainly not suggesting that city planners don't have a place. I'm not suggesting, for example, we knock down the Mission, or we knock down the Tower of London, or anything of that nature. That would be wrong. But I'm all for choice. Thank you. That's my view. Thank you.
If everyone can take a minute or two and fill out an evaluation form for Alan, I'd be happy for him.